and welcome to a quick video going over energy and matter in ecosystems. Today, hopefully, we are going to understand the difference between energy and matter, how various ecosystems create different amounts of energy, and how energy changes throughout ecosystems. Note that if you go here, you will find a link to the note sheet if you're doing this digitally, and there should be a link here to the video that you're watching. So good job. All right, so let's define matter and energy. Matter is the measurement of an object's mass. So if I weigh my bike, it weighs 15 pounds. That is a measurement of all of the molecules that is stored within my bike. So matter is really defined by the things in objects, how much stuff is in there. We're really going to get into types of matter in our second unit. Biology is made up of lots of different types of living things. But usually within ecosystems, we define matter as either primary productivity or how much sugar plants produce per year, or we can talk about animal biomass or the amount of flesh in a population of animals. We usually talk about animal biomass rather than number of animals because it allows us to measure the growth of a population over time. That's a little bit more specific than just number. And then energy, which I have our favorite energy drink over here, is the measurement of how much work or change can be done by something. So for example, if you go home and find a stick of butter, there is 1,000 calories in a stick of butter. Why that is, we'll get into in the second unit. But for example, I could run 10 miles using that energy, which is sort of ironic because Celsius is labeled as an energy drink, essential energy, but it contains 0 calories. So when we talk about the definitions of energy, chemical or solar, things like Celsius are terrible at giving us energy because they actually contain 0 calories. They don't do any work for us. They just stimulate us with caffeine, but that doesn't allow us to do any extra work. Solar energy is just the measurement of sunlight hitting plants that's going to be used for photosynthesis. So energy is the capacity to do work. Matter is the stuff stored within things. So photosynthesis is the baseline of our ecosystems in terms of matter and energy. Plants absorb solar energy and they convert that energy into glucose, or what we call chemical energy. This is photosynthesis, and because these plants are making their own energy, we call them self-troph energy, self-energy. They make their own energy. The chemical reaction for photosynthesis is sunlight plus water plus carbon dioxide making sugar and oxygen. So yay, we can breathe. Without photosynthesis, there would not be oxygen in the atmosphere, and we would all asphyxiate quite quickly and rapidly. That does not sound fun. So when we look at different ecosystems, so notice, I'm going from a climograph data showing precipitation and temperature, so tundra, tropical rainforest, desert, we can measure what's called the NPP. The NPP, or primary productivity, is how much glucose, grams of carbon, we make every square meter per year. Basically, this is our paycheck. So tropical rainforests make a ton of money. They make 2,000 grams of carbon, which is about 8,000 calories in 1 square meter per year. That is really lucrative. So the question I'm going to be asking you to answer for this is, by going back and forth between this graph and this graph, why do you think the primary productivity of an ecosystem is dependent upon things that we see in the climograph data in terms of temperature, precipitation, and maybe other things that are involved in photosynthesis that we might not directly see here? So then we get into upper levels of the trophic system or food webs. So plant matter is going to be consumed by things that we call primary consumers. These are also called herbivores. These organisms are heterotrophic other energy because they need energy from other organisms to survive. We are heterotrophic. We get energy from chicken wings and tacos and soda and you name it to keep ourselves alive. If a primary consumer, a cow, is eaten by another organism that is like us, that's a secondary consumer. This means that they are carnivores. So when we eat food, though, this is really interesting. most of the energy is actually not used to do work or make a new biomass. So let me explain. So a caterpillar, maybe you grew up reading The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Great book. Eats 200 joules of energy. Joules is a measurement like calories of energy. Ironically, over 50% of the food that caterpillar eats is going to be lost as waste. Poop. Poop is really important to ecosystems in terms of nutrient cycling and energy. Now, 67% or 67 joules of energy is going to be used to just do cellular respiration. This is making us live on a daily basis, keeping us warm, allowing us to do work. Only 33 joules, or about a sixth of the energy that the caterpillar eats, is actually going to go into making that caterpillar bigger, making it swole, as kids like to say when you go to the gym. So when you eat 2,000 calories like the caterpillar, very little of the food you eat actually is going into making new muscle or new cells. Most of it is going into heat, or i.e. poop. And we can sort of see that here. When we look at net primary productivity, a lot might not be consumed. Some will end up as feces. Some will be assimilated and be given off as heat. And very little of it will actually go into measuring or making new biomass. This is the amount of energy that ecosystems make that actually go into making new organisms or organisms being bigger. So, the question I have for you is, large organisms that are warm-blooded tend to have really low assimilation rates. They wouldn't be absorbing 33 joules of calories, they might be absorbing 5 or 6. Why might being large and needing to regulate your own temperature make you less efficient? Where would these calories that aren't in this group go, here or here, as a result of being big and warm-blooded? And the last question, or the last idea, is, I need to quickly change this. There we go. The trophic structure. So organisms are organized into categories in ecosystems based on their role. We call each level a trophic level. When we look at the energy that is consumed and assimilated from one level to the next, the average is 10%. So when I look at the light energy, we have 100% in our producer or photosynthesis level. Only 10% goes to the primary consumers. Of that, only 1% goes here, because a tenth of a tenth is 1%. And then by the time we get to this cute little lion here, there's only a tenth of a tenth of a tenth, or 0.1%. Harper, welcome to the biology video that you're going to watch over the weekend. Do you have anything to say?
There needs to be more chargers in our school.
More chargers in the school. Okay. The remaining 90% of the energy that didn't go from this level to this level was either lost as heat, or as waste, or metabolic energy. So the question I have for you is, an ecosystem of 10 square miles makes 20 million calories per year. A deer needs 250,000 calories per year to live. How many deer can survive in the forest? But additionally, a wolf needs 1 million calories, and a deer stores 100,000 calories in its body. How many wolves can be found in the forest based on the number of deer that can live in the forest? We'll go over these questions and ideas that you have on class on Tuesday. Happy hunting.